How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is PSReady, my channel all about PlayStation, and you know, it's a good source for PlayStation news. So if you're new here or you've been here for a while, make sure you're subscribed and have your notifications set to all. In today's video, I've got a bunch of topics to cover with you guys. The first one is we're gonna dig deep into the new PS2 emulator now that the games are out on PlayStation 5. Next on the list, we're gonna talk about how Sony's going multi-platform for one game, but I don't think it's as bad as it's being made out to be. Third on the list, we're gonna talk about how Phil Spencer called PlayStation's business practices slimy. And finally, PS5 is being held back by the Xbox Series S once again, and we're going to talk about why that needs to stop. So let's jump into this first news story here, which is all about your PS5 becoming a PS2 finally, but like it's not as great as we were hoping. So there have been rumors for a long time now that there was a new emulator coming to the PlayStation 5 for specifically PS2 games. And the reason they needed that was because before they already had an emulator for the PS4 that would emulate PS2 games, and it was solid. The games looked and ran pretty good. They were nothing amazing or anything like that. But then when they started adding in these classic games as bonuses for PS Plus Premium, they started selling them a la carte on the PlayStation Store. The PS5 would emulate an emulator emulating the PS2. So the PS5 was actually emulating the PS4's PS2 emulator, and the results were not great. So Sony commissioned a new emulator from Implicit Conversions, and now it's out with the first three games, which are Tomb Raider Legends, Sly Cooper 1, and Star Wars The Clone Wars. We'll start out with how the games are running, which I'm happy to say is good. We got an extra feature that they didn't tell us about beforehand, which is that you can actually like on the fly switch between the PAL version and the NTSC version. I don't know why you would want to switch to the PAL version, because if you didn't know, PAL games ran at 50 hertz or 50 FPS. So if you play them in NTSC or America, you would get 60 FPS. So I would recommend using that. But if you want to go full nostalgia mode, like you grew up in the United Kingdom or something like that, you've got the option there to play it in PAL format, which I think is cool. The rewind feature is also great. It lets you just rewind, I think, up to like 60 seconds of gameplay, and you can literally go back. It's not like a save state. It's really like literally rewinding the game. So if you're playing Sly Cooper and you mess up a platforming segment, you can rewind to right before you made that jump and then reconfigure your controls to get it exactly right. And I think that's a cool feature because, you know, there's a lot of purists out there who play a lot of these older games and they get mad when you use save states and everything like that. But if you're just going for a like nostalgic little playthrough of Sly Cooper because you want Sony to make a new one, I like emulators giving you the ability to kind of remove all of the like jankiness and headaches and technical limitations that kind of plagued these games back in the day, right? Like I'm a purist when it comes to like a Souls game. I don't want anyone to have an easy mode or like cheat their way through that, but like playing Sly Cooper on PS5 emulating a PS2 game, I think we can dial back the edginess just a little bit and be excited that there's a rewind feature. There's also save states though. So if you want to make a save state because you want to put your console in rest mode or you want to play a different game, you know, you have the option there as well. Now, interestingly, one feature that they kind of talked about a lot before this emulator came out, which was upscaling, does not really seem to be all that active. Like you can turn on performance enhancements, but to a lot of people's eyes, mine included, these games look like they're running at original resolution. But the fact that performance enhancements or like quality enhancements is an option that you can toggle on, I think that's probably just the emulator not working correctly, and we'll either get a patch for it or something like that that'll allow these games to upscale, because playing a 480p game on a 70-inch TV or even a 30-inch 4K TV, it's gonna look really blocky, really rough, really soft. So I want them to figure out a way to upscale it and get some sharpness in there, so it feels like you're playing an actual HD version of these PS2 games, because 480p looks great on a 480p screen. It does not look good on a 1440p, 1080p, or 4K monitor. So like most things, it's messy because it's just coming out now, but the coolest thing is this is the worst the emulator is ever going to be, and if this is the worst it's going to be, I think it's actually pretty good. It's a definite big improvement over what we had before, which was borderline non-functional, and they're starting out with three really good games. Tomb Raider Legends is a great game. I used to play it all the time on PS2 when I was growing up. I'm not necessarily excited to go back and play it because I have a ton of stuff on my plate right now, but I'm most excited about Sly Cooper. I think Sly would be an awesome candidate to get a new game. I know Sly Cooper 4 came out on the Vita and I think the PS3, it might have been the PS4. I played through it. It was a good new version of Sly. It was playing it pretty safe, and the way they teased it was awesome, where if you bought the HD collection for PS3 and you platinumed it, like you 100%ed all of the games that came in that collection, it would actually just show you the trailer for Sly 4, and that was before they even announced the game. So they kind of sat back and let people discover that a new game was in the works. But yeah, I'm a big fan of all of Sony's big first-party titles. We talked about a couple videos ago how I want Killzone and SOCOM to come back. I'd love games like Jak and Daxter and Sly to come back as well. Hopefully now that the emulator's out, it's working well, or as well as we could hope, really. It has a lot of room for improvement. It's not perfect, obviously, but like it's out, it's working. I hope that it's easy to port games over to it, because that was kind of the big roadblock from what I understand that made it take so long to get these games coming out on the PS Plus subscription in the first place. And, you know, they're starting out with 3 games. You can grab them all right now on PS Plus Premium, or you can just buy them a la carte. But honestly, if they start adding in games like The Getaway, or Resident Evil Outbreak, Resident Evil 4, Silent Hill 2 and 3 and 4. Like there's a ton of PS2 games that they could start adding at a rapid clip. I feel like every one of those games they add, as long as it becomes a library and you don't have to add them every single month, I think that makes the PS Plus Premium subscription a lot more enticing, because yes, I do own a lot of these games already, but if I didn't, like if I'm someone who joined into the fun on the PS4 generation or even the PS5 generation, you probably wouldn't have this big library of classic games, especially if you didn't have a PSP or PS Vita, because that's where I really played most of these games. That's why I added them to my account, so I could take them on the go on my PlayStation Vita. And it is cool and very consumer friendly that Sony is letting me get those games that I already own, because like stuff like Resistance Retribution and Killzone Liberation, those were ported up to PS Plus Premium status, and I already own them, so I was able to download them for free. I'm of two minds really, because I wish it was perfect. We've waited long enough for PS2 emulation. We still don't even have PS3 emulation, but on the other hand, it is a lot better than I was expecting, because it's Sony we're dealing with here. So I'm going to give them a solid pass. Hopefully they continue to improve it very quickly and we start to see more games coming to the service. But first impressions, I'd say, are solid plus. Not necessarily great, not necessarily good. It's like on the verge of good. It's solid. It's what it needs to be. And most importantly, it's not mediocre or bad. So let me know if you're going to be playing any of these PS2 games down in the comments below. Next up here, let's talk about how Sony is going multi-platform, but it's not as bad as you might think. So you saw the news, right? Like during the Summer Game Fest showcase, they had the long leaked Horizon remake that's actually a Lego game, and it looks really, really good. I was sitting in like the first or second row at Summer Games Fest. You might have seen me when they were panning across the crowd. This game looks borderline photorealistic at times. Like there's a shot of a tall neck walking through the background. It is a co-op game where you can play it full 2-player. Aloy's voice actress is the same as the actor that plays her in the Horizon games, but she has a much more like fun flair to her voice acting. You can change Aloy's costume. It's just like a fun remake of Horizon, and it looks really good. It looks like it plays really good. I actually met someone from Guerrilla, I think it was the studio director, while I was in LA, and they told me that they're actively working on this game. It's not like a third-party thing where they're just overseeing it. They're working with the other developer to make sure this feels like a PlayStation first-party title and not like every other Lego game. Not to disparage Lego games, because I like Lego games, but you can tell by looking at this that they're really punching above what we've seen before. The most noteworthy aspect of it, though, is that it is coming to the Nintendo Switch on top of the PS5 and PC. Now, that's honestly a really surprising thing that I did not expect to see at Summer Games Fest, because you never hear Sony working with Nintendo. You know, they're direct competitors. I'd say Nintendo is the biggest competitor to Sony now that Xbox is releasing big games like Doom: The Dark Ages on the PlayStation 5, and they're kind of, you know, being weird about hardware. They're not totally exiting. They actually introduced like 3 new consoles at the event, but still, like, you know, it's a different situation where Sony is definitely competing more with Nintendo now than they are with Xbox. I think that's fair to say. But the reason I think this is not a worrying sign of more things to come to Switch or anything like that is because of one specific reason, and that's that this game is not coming to PlayStation 4. And because of that, I think it shows us what Sony's strategy is here. The whole impetus of making this Lego Horizon game is very obviously to make a game that will get people into the PlayStation ecosystem, right? Like you see the graphics, you see these awesome Lego versions of Tall Necks, you see Lego versions of Thunderjaws, you're like, whoa, that looks really cool. I want to see what the original Horizon is like. And Forbidden West, those are only available on PS4, PS5, and PC. So you go to the store and you say, if I want to build a PC that can run Forbidden West better than the PS5, I'm spending minimum $3,000. The PS5 is sitting right there for a minimum price of like $450. That's an easy sell, because not only do you get the first game through PS Plus Extra, you can also grab it for like $10 at this point, but the second game plus its DLC is out, and that's like hundreds of hours of content right there. So for Sony, they want people to enter the PlayStation ecosystem. The best way to reach people who are not in the PlayStation ecosystem is to reach out to Nintendo Switch. Switch, right? You make this Lego game, it's a fun romp, it's a teaser for what the real game actually is, and they're saying, hey, you want to play the real game, the one that can run at 60 FPS, 4K, has insane graphics, a really captivating story? Well, you're going to have to go buy a PlayStation 5. And people were kind of upset that it's not coming to PlayStation 4 because it obviously looks like it could run on PlayStation 4 and it's going to run on Switch, so like clearly it could run on PlayStation 4, but there's really no reason for them to release it there because this game is built to get people to want to buy a PlayStation 5. And if they keep releasing games on the PlayStation 4, the 50% of you who haven't upgraded yet, I'm sorry, are going to have no reason to upgrade. So it's kind of the best way to do it, right? You make a Lego game, it's not the original Horizon, so you're not pissing off the hardcore fans by porting a big marquee PlayStation first-party title over to Nintendo Switch. You're giving them a Lego game, and then you're going to give the people who are playing this Lego game a reason to go out and pick up a PlayStation 5. Because for me, I think it's worth owning a PS5 and a Switch. I think they give you totally different experiences, totally different games, and if the most I can play first-party wise is a Horizon Lego game, that's a-okay with me. I'd be a little worried if we were seeing stuff like Horizon Zero Dawn get remade and then have that ported to the Nintendo Switch, but that's clearly not happening. This is 100% a strategy to get people to get on the PS5 platform, and I'm all here for it. And honestly, I'm going to play this game. I think it looks really good. It was a great game to open up Summer Games Fest with just because of the graphics alone, but I'm totally in on the idea of like a two-player co-op game. I'm going to play this with my friends. Just a funny thing is, there's no other real like marquee side characters in Horizon. Like there's the Karja guy who I really like with the handlebar mustache, but I can't even remember his name. So like, yeah, they're saying you can play as multiple characters from the Horizon universe, and it's like, okay, I remember Aloy, and that's about it. Like if they let me play as a Thunderjaw, that'd be kind of cool, but I don't think that's going to happen. The boss fight did look pretty sick though. That brings us to the third and fourth news story, which is kind of all connected. It has to do with Xbox bringing games over to PlayStation. The first thing I want to talk about is when Phil Spencer was doing an interview, he referred to the way PlayStation had their Call of Duty deal for the last generation as slimy, and I really don't like that verbiage, honestly, for a few reasons. Like, first of all, I'm a PlayStation fanboy, so it's like offensive to me, especially as someone who has an Xbox Series X and I play a lot of games on PC. Like, you shouldn't be calling like business practices of Sony slimy. That just feels really weird. And also, Xbox had the same deal going into the Xbox 360 generation when everyone was playing Call of Duty on their Xbox 360. But I would argue it's even worse back then because they would get map packs well before the PS3 got them, and they kept that deal going as long as they could. We saw the marketing switch, of course, during the PS4 generation because more people bought PS4s, and that's just good business on Activision's part. Like, take your game and give bonuses to where people are, but like the most we got during the PS4 generation was like an exclusive skin. I like the Ghost of Tsushima styled one, the Samurai one that we got for Modern Warfare 2, I'm pretty sure. Like, that's the most I think Sony really ever pushed it. And of course, all the ads had PlayStation branding, but like, I don't personally think that's slimy. And it's actually a little bit slimy for Phil Spencer to be talking like that because during the 360 generation, again, they had the same deal, if not a worse one. So I really don't like that verbiage. And yeah, they also made a deal with Sony that they weren't going to do deals like that. The farthest I've seen them push it, of course, is that you can play Black Ops 6 on Xbox Game Pass, but like there's so many caveats there. And even Xbox players are mad because PC players get the best deal. If you have PC Game Pass, you get the entire game. But if you have Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, they're stripping out little bits of the game for those players. They're not making it a straight thing where you can just download the entire experience and get all of the seasons and everything like that through Xbox Game Pass. So you're not even getting a great deal if you're on an Xbox console. But yeah, speaking of Xbox hardware, we're in a situation once again where their hardware is holding the PlayStation 5 back. I think that's a much bigger problem than the marketing strategy of Call of Duty, right? Like Valorant. It was announced during the Summer Game Fest showcase that Valorant is coming to consoles, and then quickly people were asking if there was going to be gyro aiming, because if you're playing on a DualSense controller, you can fine tune your aim with gyro. I haven't done it with a DualSense, but I was playing Doom 2016 on my Steam Deck on the plane back from LA, and the default control setup for that game on the Steam Deck is using gyro in addition to the right stick. So you aim at something like a demon or whatever, whoever you're trying to kill in that game, and you can get like 80% there, but then you just move your Steam Deck a little bit to fine tune the aim. And it was the first time I've played a first person shooter like Doom on a controller setup and actually felt like I was as competitive as when I'm on a mouse and keyboard. Maybe it's like a little bit off, but it was so close that honestly, that would be my preferred way to play the game. And especially when you're talking about a game like Valorant, which is a pinpoint accurate shooter. Like, the hitboxes are very tight. You get the most damage, making sure 4 out of 5 of your bullets out of the burst fire gun connect with someone's head. Like, there's a lot of damage calculation you have to do when you're aiming in that game. So using just twin sticks, you'd want to be able to use gyro to fine-tune your aim and be better. But because of the Xbox platform and them having a controller that doesn't have gyro features at all, they want the game to have parity across all consoles that are going to be able to play it, and they want the game to have parity across all consoles that are going to play it because it has crossplay. So because of that, they're not adding in gyro aiming for the PS5 version. And when that was announced, I was really disappointed because, again, like, playing gyro is awesome, but I also really thought Xbox was going to announce that new controller that leaked. They did announce the white Series X that's all digital, and yeah, it's a little bit cheaper. I don't know why you would buy that thing, but they didn't announce the controller. And if they have the controller, they're sitting on it, and that could give people the same experience across both platforms. They're actually holding games back once again by not releasing that controller, because Valorant's going to be huge. It's not my kind of game. I played it a lot when it came out in 2020. I really got into it, and I had to stop playing it because I could feel it about to take over my life. I think a lot of people are going to download and play it though on console, and it sucks that the Series S and the Series X once again are holding the generation back. It's not graphics this time, it's not gameplay, it's controls, which are the main way you interact with games. So I'd want that to be as good as possible, and because of the fact that they don't want to have gyro in one and not the other, we're not going to be able to do it. So that to me is much more frustrating than PlayStation getting marketing deals for Call of Duty, because that doesn't affect me at all. Like, I have a PS5, I'm going to buy Call of Duty on PS5. If I have an Xbox Series X, I'm going to buy it on Series X. It's really not that deep, and calling it slimy, I don't know, that just really rubs me the wrong way. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you today. A little bit shorter of an episode, but I gotta be real, I'm like so tired. I'm in the East Coast time zone. I was in LA for 4 days, and I was staying up late every night, so basically I was going to bed at 6 a.m. my time. My flight landed at 3 in the morning last night, and I couldn't fall asleep because I had been staying up so late on that West Coast time zone. So like, I'm a little tired, but hopefully you got all the information you wanted out of this episode. I'll be back in I'll be back in top shape for the Thursday episode. There we go. We got it out. But yeah, let me know what you've been playing. Let me know what you thought of Summer Game Fest. Let me know if you thought the Xbox Showcase was better than the State of Play down in the comments below. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.